Hello, this is Jack. This is going to be a quick tutorial about how to code some price action. So anybody can learn to do it. I learned to do it. I have no experience with programming or coding, and I found it fascinating, easy, surprisingly, and incredibly helpful for my development as a trader. So I highly recommend anyone, if you have the slightest interest in programming price action or coding price action, whatever you want to call it, I highly, highly recommend you do it because it's pretty simple on EasyLanguage. You can do it on other platforms, and it's incredibly beneficial. So I'm going to talk about that, how to get started, and then go over some examples. And just real quick, here's some examples of what I've done fairly recently. And really, if nothing else, I would just say offload whatever you can to the computer. There's no sense to be marking open, high, low, close manually every day. That can be done for you with a simple line of code. It's pretty easy. And then, if you're interested in it and you like doing, if you like programming a little bit, and you know some price action stuff, you can program a lot of really useful information. For example, here's a breakout distance histogram. This shows me the distance of the breakout in the form of a histogram. I mean, that was really helpful for me when I was thinking about context and breakouts and pullbacks. And a while ago, I thought about the always in direction, and I kind of figured out my way of looking at it, and I programmed that direction by color in this moving average. And the bars are painted different colors because those colors have specific meanings to me subconsciously, and therefore they're being integrated into me over time. And eventually I won't need any color on the chart at all. I'll just be able to look at the chart, understand what the bars are telling me, and so I think it's incredibly helpful, and I highly recommend it. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I think it's completely a personal decision, but some helpful questions might be, would it be helpful? To me, it's super helpful. I think having a signal generator, incredibly helpful. But it's also great for identifying the context, defining it, thinking it through. There's no ambiguity with programming. You have to be very, you're telling a machine how to read the chart. There's no if, ands, or buts. It's really just straight up logic. So it's objective. And that's something that can be difficult to have. Consistent objectivity. But then again, yes, it's super helpful to offload some decisions to the computer. I don't need to know. I don't need to sit and think about the strength factors or the trend direction, the market cycle. I can be told that because I've defined it already, and the computer can tell me those things. The computer can tell me, if I want to enter right now and base my risk on the current bar or the prior bar, I know exactly how much risk that is and what the position size needs to be. And that's incredibly important for systematic trading. There's so much information on the charts. Once you start to unroll it, it's really like an oh my god moment. It's incredible. It really enhances your perspective. I think it shortens the time required for learning all of the concepts, and it's much easier to notice the little details without having to spend too much time looking or thinking over time. And it's really fun to explore different ideas. It's really engaging. It's also somehow relaxing. To me, it's like Ali said, it is kind of de-stressing. And it's helped me a lot with getting clarity about what I want to do, what I don't know, what my weaknesses are, what my strengths are, and setups and patterns. It's made my back testing and my research far more efficient. And there's a lot of resources for help if you get stuck. I recommend ChatGPT at a minimum, and then if you need to, ultimately you can hire somebody to program your idea. But there's also a lot of stuff on YouTube. There's a company called Markplex that has a lot of helpful tutorials. So there's a lot out there that can help you. So how to begin? I would say learn EasyLanguage, like we're talking about. That's applicable for TradeStation and multi-charts. Power Language is multi-charts' primary programming language, but EasyLanguage and Power Language are 90 or 95% compatible. So If you don't use TradeStation or Multicharts, you can use other brokers or platforms, but I'm pretty sure that Interactive, Tastytrade, and Lightspeed do not offer custom programmed indicators that you can write yourself. And here are, a quick, easy example of how to program moving averages. Just a couple of lines of code, a handful of characters, and we'll get into some of that here in a minute. And again, about TradeStation, super helpful to have it because you get free data, 100 years or more of free minute data. You can, I don't know where you can find that much data for free. I've looked at 5-minute charts back into like the 30s, I think. So it's a pretty good deal. And the programming is pretty easy too, so you can explore your idea throughout, history. It's really cool. Started by the traders in the 80s. It's popular for automating trading systems and backtesting. If you get into writing your own stuff, you need to back everything up. You need to save a text file in addition to the indicator file, just in case you have any issues with anything. You don't want to lose any of your work. So what I'm not going to cover, what I'm not going to talk about, is most of this stuff. We're going to talk about some of it, like inputs or variables, maybe a few functions, but a lot of this stuff is important and super useful. It's just that you can learn it probably better elsewhere than you'll learn it from me. And what I will cover, what we're about to go over, is how to program an adaptive moving average, a microchannel paintbar, and then what I'm calling a buy-below signal. So here are some examples of how to do those things. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the development environment. We have some controls up here. If this is the first time you've ever used this, you'll probably want to go into options and you want to turn on line numbers because for some reason TradeStation doesn't have line numbers automatically turned on. But anyway, this is kind of my naming convention and my style system for writing programs on TradeStation. I have these two brackets here, which allow me to write text that will not be executed during the operation of the indicator. It's solely for a visual reference. And I do this because I'll write something and then months later come back to it and I'll want to know what did I do, when did I make it, when did I update it, etc. So this is called JL, my initials, dash microchannel paintbar. I made it today. It's a basic 3-bar microchannel paintbar that does not require a gap. And there's an optional filter, we'll say, must be above or below the moving average. Great. So let's get into that. And then here's inputs. This is a function in TradeStation that you can decide for a name of an input. Like, for example, if we're writing a moving average, we're going to need a look-back period, so you would have that as an input. And there's an optional specifier for inputs that I do not use, like integer, double, float, string, bool. I don't use any of those because TradeStation doesn't require you to use them, but it is helpful to use them. It's probably more efficient for the indicators, and it probably helps with memory and execution time as well. So I would recommend it, but I do not currently use it. I probably will after this. So my first input is above or below the moving average. That's a filter that currently is set to 0. It's 0 because I associate 0 with off, and I would change it to 1 for on. The next one is bull color, bear color, and then we're finished with our inputs. Therefore, I have a semicolon. This is an actual colon, that's a semicolon. And then I'm using red, green, blue because you have a lot of color options. You could also alternatively write out words like white, black, red, green, etc. But I don't like to do that because you're limited, and here you're basically unlimited. So then from there I have variables. Same thing, you can use optional data type like float, double, integer, etc. My first variable I'm declaring is body direction. I'm initially saying that body dir is equal to 0. That's why there's a 0 there. And then my next variable is going to be signal, and that's initially worth 0. And then I'm ending it with a semicolon. And now I'm ready to write the syntax for the actual indicator. So first I'm going to write about the body direction, and I have this these slashes here because without them, I would have executable text written here, but I don't want to execute this text. I just want to visually refer to it as like a title or a header, and I have this secondary set of dashes here just so it's kind of clean, neat, and organized. So the first thing I'm writing is, if the close is greater than the open, then the body direction is 1. I associate 1 with bull, and I associate -1 with bear. If the close is equal to the open, then the body direction is the same as the body direction 1 bar ago. This is how you write 1 bar ago. If I wanted it to be the same as the bar 2 bars ago, I would write that. And that's counting from the current bar. If you have nothing here, then it would be referring to the current bar. But this is already that, so I have the prior bar here. I want the current bar to inherit the direction of the prior bar. From there, the adaptive moving average logic, we have value 1. Value 1 through 99 is are blank variables built into TradeStation so that you don't have to declare variables yourself. If you're trying to accomplish something quickly and efficiently, you can just use value 1 all the way up to value 99. There's a function called adaptive moving average, and these are my settings for the adaptive moving average. This accomplishes the task of calculating the adaptive moving average using these inputs. This is all taking place using this function, and you write the values for the function inside of the parentheses, ending it with a semicolon, just like we did here at each statement. Then I smooth that average by taking an average of the average. How about that? I smooth it using three prior periods of this average. I have it smoothed out, and we'll see what that looks like later. And we do have the same syntax written over here in a different manner. But for now, let's keep moving forward. So next is microchannel signal. So I'm starting out with this variable signal and saying that signal equals 0 right now. And it already enters 0 here, but once we have a signal, if this condition doesn't appear again, then I need to reinitial it to 0. So I always start out by saying, let's start out with signal being 0, and then if this condition exists, change it so that signal is 1. This condition is, if we have a bull bar, body direction is 1. If we have 3 bull bars, this is the prior bar, this is the bar 2 bars ago, and we have a low that is greater than or equal to the prior low, and that low is greater than or equal to the low 2 bars ago, then the signal is 1. Opposite case for the bears. This is, to me, the minimum criteria for a microchannel. Now we have a moving average filter, which requires at least one close of the microchannel above the moving average. So I'm going to write if above below moving average is turned on equals 1. Remember, that's our input. It's set to 0, so I could change it to 1 and turn it on. And if it turns on, accomplish this syntax, but don't do anything otherwise. So if this filter is turned on, begin. If we have a signal and the close is less than the moving average, then we don't have a signal. Value 2 is the moving average that I'm using. If we have a signal and it's a bear signal, but the close is above the moving average, I don't want to see that signal, so signal is 0. Then, if the signal survives the filter, we can plot a paint bar. So if the signal is 1, go ahead and plot a paint bar for the current bar, the prior bar, and the bar 2 bars ago. This is how you write the syntax for that. Here's the bear and bull condition. We have the color that we're going to use. You could give this plot a name, but the name has to be the same for all of the paint bar plots. And you can reference the current bar or prior bars. So that's the indicator. You'll notice an asterisk up here, and that means that I've written something into this indicator or changed something, and I haven't saved it yet, so it's not verified. Whatever changes I've made will not be applied to the charts if I add this indicator to the charts right now. So you can come up here and hit verify, and if there are any errors, you will be informed. So let's see what this looks like on the charts. Okay, let's go into the indicator and see what settings I have. So we don't have the moving average filter turned on. We have our colors. And the style and color doesn't apply to paint bars. So this is what we have. And I believe this is set to update in real time intra-bar, tick by tick. Okay, great. So what I see looks to be about correct with our logic. We have 3 bull bars, 2 trending lows. So this is a good microchannel. That's a good microchannel. These look accurate. These are good microchannel signals. Opening drive, you expect this one to fail, but if you traded these microchannel signals on this day, it looks like you would have a pretty high win rate. And that's what we accomplished here with this coding language. So let's go over the moving average next, and then we can show you what that looks like. So I've written the moving average indicator a little bit differently, and what I did was just copied this and threw it in here and saved it. You can make a new indicator going here and clicking on this, giving it a name, and hitting OK. That's what I did there. And it can be as simple as this. We can just use built-in variables. We can use built-in functions. I can go ahead and assign values to use for these functions, and then I can go ahead and plot that. And I don't need to specify the color because I can do that on the chart. And I don't even need to give it a name if I don't want to, but I should. Let's go ahead and say that this is the adaptive moving average. Okay, I hit F3 to verify it. Let's see what it looks like on the chart. Here's the adaptive moving average, and there you have it. It's set to be white. We can change the thickness so it's a little bit more prominent, and let's compare that to a 20 EMA. The 20 EMA is in blue here. Let's go ahead and change it to a solid line that's a little bit thicker. And I just wanted to illustrate this because just a few days ago I was looking at my moving average and thinking about using an adaptive moving average, and I think I like it a little bit better. But the 20 EMA is pretty good as well. But anyway, let's get rid of the 20 EMA and just use the adaptive. And let's see if we can find a day where the filter being applied would help. Okay, let's take a peek here. Let's turn the moving average filter on. Okay, so that got rid of one signal here. That's a little bit helpful. Let's look at the current day. I don't think it changed anything here, but for trading range days, it could be pretty helpful. We want it crossing the moving average at a minimum. Okay, let's turn that off, and let's move on here. And let's turn that off, and this off. Okay, great. So next, let's go over the buy below signal. Okay, so this is going to be about the same as the microchannel signal that we've written. All I did was copy and paste all this stuff over and change a few things. So I've got microchannel buy below, sell above signal. It's an optional filter here. It's a basic 3-bar microchannel pullback signal generator. So when we have a pullback after a microchannel, I want to know about it. My inputs, I have 2 different methods I'm going to use to plot. I've given a name to that input called plot method. I have method 1 as the default. The buffer is how many ticks spacing in between the location of the signal and where the signal is being, like the price that I'm referencing for the signal. It'll make sense in a second. The filter, the colors, and then some variables. So here I've got allow for a tick or 2 of spacing for the signal plot. This just means that wherever I'm plotting the signal, like if I'm referencing the high or low of a bar, I want to plot the signal maybe 2 ticks away from that price so that it's not exactly on that price level. I have a variable named allowance that's using the buffer, which is 2, times the minimum movement of the price scale, and that would be 2 ticks. So allowance is now holding and storing the value of 2 ticks, regardless of what instrument you're looking at, futures, stocks, whatever. The body direction moving average and microchannel signals are the same as they were before, but now we have pullback signal. The pullback signal is a different variable. I'm initializing it to 0 initially. And then I'm saying if we have a signal on the prior bar or the bar 2 bars ago, and the current low is below the prior low, then we have a pullback against a bull microchannel. So pullback signal is 1. Opposite case for the bears. So that means if we have a microchannel and then a pullback within 2 bars, then we have a pullback signal. The low has to go below the prior bar's low for that to happen. Moving average filter, same as here, same as before, I mean. And then 2 different methods for plotting. We can plot using the built-in plot function, or we can plot using a text object. If we plot using the plot function, well, in either case, we need to figure out where do we want to plot these signals. And I'm storing those locations in variables called bull pullback signal level. And that would be the low minus allowance. Remember, allowance is 2 ticks. So bull pullback signal level is low minus 2 ticks. That's where I want this to go, or this plot to go. And then for the bears, it's going to be the high plus 2 ticks. So if we're using method 1, we have, if we have a pullback signal and it's a bull signal, and we're using method 1, go ahead and plot. We'll use plot number 1 for the bulls, plot number 2 for the bears, and we can give it a name like buy below signal, sell above signal. And let's see what that looks like on the chart real quick. Okay, this is actually with method 2. Let's go back and go over that real quick. So if we have a pullback signal and we're using method 2, plot this text object. So there's a variable here called bull text object, and that variable is equal to a new text object. And this is how you write for the text object. And also too, with all of these highlighted words here, you can always right click and go to the definition of that function, and TradeStation will tell you all about it. And you can use the search function to look for other things. You can scroll through them, and there's quite a lot of them, but that can be super helpful. But this is making a new text object. You have to tell it the date and time to put it. You know, I want to put it on the current bar, so I'm leaving these as is. But if I wanted to plot it on a bar 2 or 3 bars ago, I would write 2 in brackets here, but I don't need to do that. That's just an example of how to do it. And then we have bull pullback signal level. This is where, what price level do we put this object? We have the date, time, we need a place, a price. And then what is the object? It has to be a text. It could be any character, as long as it works with the font that you've got set to use by default on TradeStation. And that means that you can use objects like this. So I want kind of a buy signal below the pullback. After we have a microchannel, I'm going to set the color of that object, text set style of that object. And this is a little bit easier to explain with the definitional because I don't even have these memorized. So the way this works is you have this situation here, and go ahead and so this first number is going to be the horizontal level. We're using 2. We want it centered at that price level. And then the second number would be the vertical number. And for the bulls, I want that buy signal to go below the low, so I'm going to use a 0. And that's what we've got here. So we have a 2 for centered and then 0 for below. Bears, we have 2 for centered and 1 for above. I want this downward signal above the high plus 2 ticks, which is that price level there. Finally, you can set the color, text set color. That's the object name. You have to reference it, set that object to this color. That color is up here. So yeah, that's how we do the buy below signal. I'm going to verify it here, no issues. Great, so let's move to the chart and take a look at those signals. And let's go ahead and turn on the microchannel signal generator, and let's see what we get. And this looks pretty good. We've got a strong bull microchannel, we have a pullback, and I have a buy signal here. That means that I have a micro channel. I'm expecting the pullback to fail and get trend resumption, so I'm looking to buy. But that buy failed right here, and then we got a bear micro channel. So now I'm thinking we might go to the downside. And here's the first pullback. Here's the first pullback. Here's the first pullback. First pullback after a micro channel, that is. Here's another one. I was trading on Friday, and someone I know actually took this sell. They sold here and got out at the low. And, it's a pretty high probability trade. If you take a look at all the trades here, you might have had some trouble here and here, but everything else looks pretty dang good, huh? So pretty powerful, with just a simple little piece of code, and a pretty efficient moving average. It's a pretty powerful trading system in and of itself on trending days, but trading range days, you're going to have to do a little bit more work and think a little bit more. It's not as simple as building a signal generator and then, hey, I'm just going to buy. Well, okay, but are you just going to sell? I don't know. How about down here? You're just going to sell? You're going to sell this pullback? I don't know about that. So anyway, it's not as if you can just make this holy grail signal generator and everything's going to work out hunky-dory for you. But, man, it is quite powerful and really an experience to have an idea and then see it being played out on the charts. Now, let's use the other method so you can see what that looks like if we're just using plot objects. And remember, if we're using method 1, we're just going to use the built-in plot functions, and you don't need to assign colors to those, but you can name them, and I suggest naming them something because you have to refer to them inside of the indicator right here. So you would go to style to change the style of it. Right now we're set to make it a point, and it's a fairly thick point, and the color is green and red. So red would be a sell signal, green theoretically would be a buy signal. We could change that to blue if we wanted to, and maybe make it a little bit more consistent with our color system here. But anyway, that's pretty much it. That's how you do it. These are the signals. It's really, like I said, rewarding to be able to do things like this, and it's incredibly productive for your trading growth, in my opinion. All right, so that's been a quick tutorial about how to program some pretty basic but pretty powerful price action indicators, and there's a lot more that you can do. There's a lot more that you can learn. I suggest just using whatever resources you can find online, like ChatGPT. There's Markplex, like I mentioned. There's programmers available for hire. Just Google EasyLanguage programmer or something like that. You'll figure it out. But most of all, just take a stab at it and think about how you look at the price charts and what it means to you, and then put that meaning into words and put those words into functions and look at that play out on the chart. And it's incredibly helpful, incredibly powerful, and I highly recommend it. So anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.